Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and something new, my first video on Black Myth Wukong, a game so widely anticipated particularly in Asia that even someone in North Korea, according to Yoshi Kershue, the studio behind the game, managed to get online and download a copy. Wow. But all that aside, I'm usually quite skeptical of hype trains, but having had this game for 2 nights, I have absolutely no doubt that Black Myth Wukong is going to get Game of the Year. It is absolutely stunning, the gameplay is fantastic, and the story is beautifully written, at least so far. I've been absolutely knocked out by how good it is. A bit like that guy. Anyway, the key objective of this video is to showcase to people who may be unaware of the title, or are a bit hesitant about putting their money behind it, these games aren't cheap these days, what Wukong is all about. Now if you're just here to see some fights like me beat up a giant bear, you could just skip ahead to minute 11, but I really recommend you don't. Watch the video and understand the mechanics, it'll make a lot more sense if you do. And finally, as much as I'd love you to watch my video, if you've already made a decision to play Wukong, you haven't stepped through the door yet. It's not too late to turn back and avoid spoilers. I'm going to keep them to a minimum, but if you stick around, you're going to see what you're going to see. Okay, I consider that fair warning. We're going to kick it off at Hua Guo Shan, Wukong's home, and the final stand in the rebellion against heaven. Let's jump into it. So before even saying anything about gameplay, the first thing to understand is that this game is basically like God of War. Absolutely beautiful cinematic sequence woven into the fights. Here are a few of my favorites from the opening 10 minutes. I'll be very clear up front, if this style doesn't work for you, you are looking at the wrong game. But in addition to being an opening sequence, it's also a sandbox tutorial and introduction to the story of the game. And it's really well done because you get to play as a full power Wukong using spells such as Stone Skin to deflect any single strike like you just saw there, or the immobilization spell and the combination of light heavy combos which are all unlocked at this stage of the game. You also get to use my favorite spell where Wukong plucks a hair from his head to make clones of himself, a spell so powerful it actually had the effect of crashing my PC. I really appreciate tutorials like this that don't ram it down my throat and let me just discover it for myself and get some ideas about how I want to build my character. Now as to the story, the premise of the game is actually quite interesting because whilst Wukong and Arlang, this chap here with the lightning spear, did battle, and Wukong did rebel against heaven, that was all resolved and Wukong went on to achieve sainthood ultimately. But in Black Myth, a second battle takes place after the events where Wukong rebels a second time and is ultimately killed. And that's where you as the player comes in. You play as a particularly enlightened resident of Hua Guo Shan, a fellow monkey like Wukong, who's on a mission to recover 6 relics to bring him back to the world. And so it is that we the player step out into the setting of Journey to the West, the story of the Monkey King, without actually being necessarily bound to exactly what happens in the novel. And I think that was superbly done. If you had read the novel though, you're going to see a lot that you recognize. Okay, so let's get into the actual mechanics of the game and see if it's something you want to play. And the first thing to master is how to dodge and not die. I'm pretty sure this is a mechanic we've all seen at some point. Basically, push, evade at exactly the right moment to set yourself up for a counter and avoid damage. With the exception of blocking projectiles, Wukong doesn't actually have a block button. Now, it's all well and good dodging an attack that's been telegraphed and is coming one at a time. The real trick is when you've got to do it in the middle of a boss fight, like you're seeing here. And the blows are coming thick and fast. Okay, so that's one, but the boss isn't going to let up. The other thing that you need to do is watch for tells, animation signals about what the boss is going to do. Is he going to do an AoE? Is it going to be a thrust? Is it going to be a combo? As you can see on this one, he's charging up for a big swing, so I back away because it's obviously an AoE. Anyway, let's see if we can push him into making a mistake. Trust me, that's not the end of him. But that's the idea about the perfect evade and rolls. The next thing to know is about how you charge your meter and apply combos. Basically, damaging and evading your opponents builds your focus bar. Every time you fill the bar, you get 1 point like you're seeing down there to a maximum of 4, I believe. Currently I only have 2 unlocked. And you can then use those points when the moment's right, like it is right now, to execute a heavy combo. Another thing you can do is charge your focus in advance, which is what you're seeing here. You can see I'm building up the bar and running in for a heavy attack. A heavy attack also has the advantage of splitting shields and other armor, something you're going to need to make use of as you progress through the game. Once he's lost his shield, he's open. But the really cool thing is that charge attacks come with the probability of having a knockback and a critical hit, which is absolutely brilliant against bosses. So as you see, he got stunned there, and I get lucky because I start rolling quite a few 6s on critical hits here. That one wasn't critical, so it's time to back off. I've recorded the full fight against this guy at the 11-minute marker, but for now let's move on and talk about exploration, because that's another really important mechanic for the game. Now, this is something where I'm actually going to be a little bit critical of the devs, because the way they lead you when you first play is to play in a bit of a stealthy way to try to evade the enemies, which is actually a terrible idea for a number of reasons. First off, by avoiding fights, you're not going to get any stronger. You're also going to miss out on lots of loot, which is obviously going to be detrimental in the long run. But it also implies very heavily that you're supposed to skip certain encounters, like this chap here you just saw me fighting. Now, the instruction given was to sneak past and get to the other side of the zone without engaging in a fight, which is what I did. But it occurred to me even at that point that this is an absolutely terrible idea. Of course I'm going to start a fight with this guy, and I'm really glad I did, because this was a really difficult fight that taught me so much about the game. But here's the biggest problem. Had I not gone back, I would have completely missed this chap, Guangzhi. He was patrolling in the zone that I was told to bypass effectively. Now this is a twofold problem. One, I would have missed a kick-ass fight, which I'm not going to spoil for you. But second and more importantly, when you defeat Guangzhi and other Yaoguai Yaojing like him, you actually inherit their power that you can then summon up throughout the rest of the game. And again, had I followed the game's instructions, I would have completely missed this individual and had no idea that he was even here. So precisely because I did look around and go against what I was being told to do, when I went up against the next main story quest boss fight, I had Guangzhi's power in my pocket, which is by no means insignificant. Not only does he bring huge DPS, he also has a completely separate health bar from your character, which is useful particularly if you're in more challenging fights where you can use this form to tank some of the more difficult attacks if you're having trouble with them. Anyway, I've got some cool boss fights lined up for you. I'm trying to keep spoilers to a minimum, so let's move on and back to the issue of exploration. So here's an example. As per the level design, many times you're going to have an opportunity to go different ways. I could have taken the stairs on the right, or I can progress through the structure on the left. Going through the structure took me to this river, which was all very much off the beaten path. Going down the river brought me to this swamp, where there are a couple little monsters in here, nothing too special. And all of a sudden I get jumped by a giant Qinghua frog, who is apparently extremely fast. So by total chance, I encountered this chap. No spoilers, let's just skip to the bit where I kill him. But here's the funny thing. Because I went through the structure and went this path, I missed something which allows me to collect the soul and therefore the ability that this Yaojing has. And how did I miss it? Because right back at the beginning, I didn't go up the stairs where this chap was waiting to give me the ability to capture their souls. Now the point I'm just trying to make, I'm not whinging about it, is that you really do need to explore each section in depth before you push too far ahead. Otherwise, you're going to miss lots of content that's really cool and is really useful for strengthening your character. You can always return to zones at a later date by using the shrine system that the game has, but unless you're watching a guide or some kind of walkthrough, you won't know where these things are. So enjoy yourself, take time to explore, have some fun. You never know where you're going to find a named mob or a boss hiding in a clearing somewhere. Now, as you're going to see, because I killed this chap Guangmo after I got my special little gourd that allows me to absorb their souls, I can now activate his power and have yet another weapon in my arsenal. But fear not, if you like to clear things the moment you encounter them like I do, you can go to the nearest shrine and recover their souls from there. But I cannot stress enough, I could have easily walked past that NPC, nothing forced me to go there, and I could have easily walked past these named mobs if I didn't explore. Okay, as promised, now that I've explained the mechanics, let's let the camera roll and get some gameplay. Let's start off picking up against this guy, one of the first real fights you're going to have in the game. As you can see, my focus bar is now fully charged, and a lovely perfect dodge there gives me the opportunity to charge and use it. The critical hit knockback gives me the opportunity to pull out Guangzhe and go for the DPS. Not gonna lie, rolling a lot of 6s on critical hits here. It's going well. Used up all my power, so I revert to my normal state. Dodge the AoE and the Ki Blast, and it's time to go in for the finish. Just walking backwards to try to bait him to jump forward. And there you go, the first real fight you're going to have in Wukong, providing of course you don't run from it. And as with the frog, the Qinghua Jing, I haven't actually at this point got the ability to be able to absorb his soul, so I was a bit confused, but already explained what that's all about. I just left it in to prove to you that I didn't come back when I was super powered later in the game. You can beat him straight away. Right, now let's go to the other end and kick it up to one of the stronger bosses that I know a lot of people were having trouble with, at least yesterday. Hei Xiong the Black Bear. So this boss is actually end of chapter 1. You can see I'm getting a little bit cocky in my playstyle now. Perfect dodge, cloud step for a counter, and then immobilize for damage. The fight was going really well, kept working him down, kept getting a good number of critical hits for knockback, and then I got a little bit cocky, and I ended up paying the price for it. That was a terrible approach. I'm very nearly dead and very much on the back foot now. That perfect dodge saved me. That was very close. Now you see, I'm proud of that. Managed to freeze him in the air just before the AoE went off. That was actually a good move. But now we've gone into 50% health. Here comes phase 2, Fire Bear. Now you need to be on point to dodge these wind attacks. That's one perfect evade. There's a second one. Eventually he reappears and you can start doing the damage. I give him a cloud kick in the back to stun him and we can go in and start laying down the DPS. In case you're wondering, this is about 50-50 at the moment. It could go either way. There it is, we beat Hei Xiongjing. Don't worry guys, he's not dead, he actually goes on to become a student of Guanyin, I believe, and his story continues. Right, so that's a named mob and a boss fight I've shown you, but the really difficult fights so far are actually the secret ones. I'll let you guys figure out for yourselves where this zone is, but yeah. When you ring a shrine bell deep in the forest next to the hanging body of a Yaojing, you know nothing good is going to happen. So upon activating the secret zone, you are immediately transported into it, you don't get asked permission, and the only way to go is through. So, let's get on with it. Now I'm just going to say this one more time, you don't have to watch this bit, you can skip ahead. If you don't want to know what the secret boss is, this is the time to look away. Just going to give you time to hit pause if you don't want to see. This is Jinche Zhanglao, a corrupted fallen Buddhist monk who's actually very important to the story. He's mentioned quite heavily in the plot, but you can fight him if you want to in the secret realm. Now I can already hear what some of you are saying. Hey, he looks exactly like the blue dude you fought at the beginning of the game, what's the big deal? Well, obviously, he's got a few tricks. And here comes the first of them. He summons lots of explodey souls to come and try and take you out, but this is only the first phase of it. It gets more difficult as it goes on. Then he started doing this. Can you figure out what he's doing? I'll let the camera roll. Let me know when you figure it out. This is actually my first time seeing it too, so at this point in the video I'm as confused as you are right now. Okay, these guys have souls in them. So as you've probably now realized, just as I did, he's summoning these souls towards them and every single one that makes it to him heals him. So now you need to run around and body block as many as you can to stop him refilling his health bar. After this, he sets his explosive boys on me again, but this time with a twist. He absorbs him into a Kamehameha style chi blast, which actually did a chunk, but this time I'm ready for it. In any case, after a very sweaty fight, managed to work him down and take him out. So I don't know what impact this may have on the wider ending, killing him. Plot, won't go into it, but what I can tell you is that by taking him out, I got this wonderful little item. The Flameproof Mantle. Massively reduces fire damage, very useful when fighting a bear on fire. So guys, if you made it this far, thank you very much and I hope you'll consider playing the game, but just a few thoughts before I go. 1. If you're playing on PC, run the benchmarking tool before you buy. Here are my stats for you to see. Not exactly a low-powered machine with an RTX 390, still had to turn some settings down to get 60 FPS. My gaming laptop was no different on Cinematic, which is running with laptop versions of 490s. The next thing, which I would absolutely implore, please don't skip the cutscenes and don't rush the game, don't rush the setting. This game is too beautiful to be speedrun.
要不你现在就跪下认个错，这事儿就算过去了，如何？
这么多年了，除了那只猪头，就属你最会扯淡，最能逗老孙开心。
So again, all that remains to be said is thank you very much for giving your time over to watch this video. If you're thinking about playing the game, I hope this helped you make a decision about whether you want to go for it. I wholeheartedly recommend you do. Believe me, I say that without any type of sponsorship, endorsement, or financial reward. I genuinely think this game is buff. Have a great weekend. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.